At the beginning of the semester, I was told I had to do a PBL project. That project was to apply what we had learned to the real world. Well, to understand why I applied things how I did, I think you need to understand a little bit about my world. About 100 or so years ago, probably more actually, we were forced behind 3 walls. We, meaning humanity as a whole. Because of this, well, no, back up. The reason we were forced was because of the Titans. The Titans are these creatures that eat humans. They're really our only natural prey, or predator. Because of them, we were hunted nearly to the brink of extinction. That's why we created the 3 walls. 5 years ago, the outermost wall was breached by the Titans, and now we're forced behind 2. Our military is in 3 branches. I myself am part of the Survey Corps, the branch with the highest death rate. Because of this, it tends to attract some rather eccentric people, which could be good, could be bad, depending on your point of view, but it was good for my project. The first person I chose was Revi, Lance Corporal. He has a tendency to clean things 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 times, which is okay until he makes us clean the entire base that many times. It's begun to really interfere with his squad's work, with my work, with everyone's work, really. And so I set about to shape him. What I did was I made a fictitious general, the Inspector General. He would come by and see how clean the barracks were. We started with the barracks. You see, what really was happening was someone from my squad was sitting and watching him to see just how many times he cleaned. If he cleaned upwards of 5 times, he only got 1 star. 4 times, he got 2. 3 times, well, he got 3 stars. 2 times, he got 4, and only once got him 5. This worked beautifully for a while. So then I entered it, and obviously this plays into the schedule of reinforcement. It's not that I introduced it. It just plays into it fine. With the schedule being a fixed ratio schedule, meaning every occurrence got him stars. Now with the token economy, I varied it a bit. Meaning, what happened was, I ended up having him trade these stars for poker chips. And every so many poker chips he got, he could turn it in for something for him and his squad, say a movie night or just time off. Well, this worked because not only did it have him not cleaning everything, but it had his squad on him all the time about not cleaning everything. Which is great, because then there was no real decelerators that I needed to use. It worked perfectly. Then I have 2 Titans that I have captive, named Sonny and Bean. These 2, well, they're Titans. What else is there to say about them? They try to eat people. I can't do any research with them trying to eat people, so I had to teach them not to eat people. The problem with that is that that's going completely against their basic nature. That's just what they do. They eat people. And so I started with shaping like I did Revi. I simply gave them a cookie every time I did something, and they didn't try to bite me. Perhaps I should explain, these cookies were made in giant pizza ovens in the barracks so that they were the size and shape of a human. Which was fine, really, until... never mind. Anyway, the schedule of reinforcement that I put them on was actually a variable interval. I started varying when I reinforced them. So maybe they could go longer without biting us. And it worked! Once I determined that that would work, I went straight to a token economy with them. Now, I wasn't sure if they would understand it or not, but I did it anyway. Doing this, I set a jar of marbles by them. And every 20 marbles, they could turn it in for a cookie. By now we had decreased the size of these cookies. So it took 20 instances of them not biting us, each one instance getting them a marble, to turn in. I tried explaining it to the Titans. I'm not quite sure if they ever truly figured it out, but I kept my own records of how many each one had. But it served its purpose. Now, unfortunately, we had an issue. For a while, we allowed them to roam freely around the lab because they're fairly benign. They didn't really do anything. They wouldn't try to eat us. Nothing went wrong. Until one day, Bean actually grabbed one of my squad members, and he actually did try to eat them. Well, we couldn't have that going, so we started with the first response blocker, which was response blocker. The first decelerator, which was response blocking. What we did was we had to restrict all forms of movement. Now, this may seem cruel and unusual. However, if something is 7 meters, that's, what, 21 feet. You can't have a 21-foot man-eating giant trying to do anything. I mean, they're intelligent enough to reach out, grab a human being, and bring it to their mouth. Or, if they can't, they'll come at us jaws first. So we had to almost eliminate all movement. Then we went with the punishment of involuntary behavior. Now, the reason I say involuntary is because it's an instinct. They have no real reason to eat us. It's not hunger. They have no digestive tract. They just simply exist to eat us for no reason. And short of corporal punishment, I couldn't do anything. To be quite honest, I couldn't have done anything for the punishment of a voluntary behavior, so I went with involuntary. For this, I set up a loudspeaker right at ear level with them. And it would play a loud mosquito tone, like the ringtones. It hurt their ears, unfortunately it also hurt ours, but we would blare that tone every time they tried to bite us. Now, we went right back to shaping with a differential reinforcement of alternative behavior, which was just simply giving them cookies for every time they didn't bite at us. And I lost my train of thought. So anyway, that was basically what we did with the shaping, was just give them cookies for not biting us. That's really all we could do to reinforce the differential behavior. We had an attempt at response cost, but ultimately that fell through because we didn't really know how we would work that. It would merely be taking away cookies, and I don't think they really realized that we were taking away cookies instead of just giving them. But the last thing that we did was extinction. Taking away the stimulus, the positive reinforcer for the biting. Now, to do that, we had to put them in complete darkness so that they couldn't see us. We technically are the positive reinforcer for biting and eating. And so we would do that at any occurrence for about 30 minutes. However, on the rare occasion that they did manage to eat someone, we would turn the lights off completely and leave them there for the remainder of the day and the night, hoping that perhaps they would learn. And so far, it is serving to decelerate that behavior. Again, I'm hoping that in the future, it will work as well as it has before, and perhaps it will actually take, and we will be able to move on and perhaps teach some other behaviors rather than just not biting us. Now, one of my subjects, Ororo, he was a favor for a friend, Petra, Petra is absolutely in love with Revi. Unfortunately, Oro is in love with Petra, which has caused imitation of Revi in the way he dresses, the way he cuts his hair, the way he talks. It's really quite a nuisance to everyone, but we fixed that with a behavioral contract. That's all we really needed to do. If he could go a month without imitating, then he would get a date with Petra. However, if he slipped up more than about 3 times, no date. But if she skipped out, the contract was null, void, never had to be done again, and he could go right back to imitating like he did. Thankfully, that's not what happened. She actually has been going on the dates with him. I'm not sure if she really went on all of them. I think she may have a sister, but that's neither here nor there. Now, Eren, he's what's known as a shifter, a human who can transform himself into a titan. He's invaluable to my research because of this. Unfortunately, because of the time that I stuck him in a well and told him to transform, in my defense, we didn't really know what he would do. Anyway, because of that, he's afraid